now for the Shop Report with
Barbershop Jay.
What up, sports fans? Welcome to the Shop Report. I'm Barbershop Jay. I'll be your host for the day. Here's what's happening. If you're up and around, you're out and about, and you want to give us a shout, that number to call is area code 267-687-0026. Once again, the number to call, area code 267-687-0026. And as always, we'd like to remind you all out there that the Shop Report is now being powered by none other than the fine folks over at Rocket Digital Media. It's the one-stop shop for all your digital marketing needs. You can look them up on Facebook at RDM Detroit, or you can go to the website, rocketdigital.net. That's ROCKIT digital.net. And tell them the BSJ sent you. DeShaun Watson wants out of Houston and the Texans. I think that's going to be rather interesting that we discuss today. What you guys think? No? Maybe in Super Bowl 55, the recap, the discussion, the fallout, the refs, and more. Joining us on the P program today to discuss this and as well as all our other topics is none other than my cap from the NYC, a.k.a. Rucker Park. Brother Rich, what's happening?
Always honored to be on the platform with a Miami Hurricane booster. Always honored to be on the platform with a Dallas Cowboy cheerleading fan and number one supporter. Always an honor and a pleasure to be on this platform.
I'm still in bewilderment as to how, when I asked the question, is the NFC East the toughest division in football? And I said I would want for Dak Prescott to get his money. How that turned into the Dallas Cowboys and Jerry Jones. I'll still not haven't figured that out yet. But anyway, I'll give it some more thought. Maybe not. On the other side of the yeah, whatever. On the other side of the ledger, we got my man from up north, Joey James, a.k.a. Double J. Tell the people what you say.
Reporting live from Ann Arbor, Michigan. And, again, I'm going to double down with our co-host here and say how grateful and honored I am to be with, Rowdy, and hopefully Buffalo Billy comes as well.
Oh, my God.
Billy!
Yeah. D. Gully should be joining us very shortly here. I hope so, because the jabs that you all take when he's not here, they're unprecedented and uncalled for. Yes, they are. Before we get into some of our action today, I just wanted to hit you with a little, did you know? And I was hoping that Gully would be here for this one. But if he's not, if he doesn't join us anytime soon, I hope he's listening, if nothing else. Did you all know that the NFL Hall of Fame, the Pro Football Hall of Fame, or as some like to call it, in Canton, Ohio, did you all know that they have a section for football fans, for NFL fans, to be elected into the Hall of Fame? Did you all know that?
No, I had no idea.
Oh, you had no idea. Okay. Well, Ray Prisby, of Youngstown, is a finalist for the Browns fans this year to go into, literally into the Pro Football Hall of Fame as a fan. There's a selection committee and a nominees, and just like they do for the players, they have the same thing for the fans. Are you impressed by that, Double J?
Well, I am. I'm a little biased here. For a few reasons. I think there's a handful of franchises out there. You look at Detroit with Kraftman, and naturally that honor should be given to anyone that supported those franchises for as long as they have, given the abysmal results that they've provided them, and likely the heartache and maybe some other symptoms and shorten their lifespan from the emotional roller coaster they put them through.
Oh my!
The least they can do is enshrine them in bronze.
Oh my gosh! Well, I'd like for you all to know, you two. I'm speaking of you and you, that I just now having come across this information, not literally 5 or 6, 7 minutes ago, but just a few days ago, I will be placing a call to Canton to see if I can get you two nominated. Actually, move to the front of the line because you all are terrible. All right, and you all deserve your place in Canton as a bust. Okay? Yeah, exactly. You all
Well,
need, yo,
oh,
please.
how humble of him, Brother Rich. You know, if anybody, our host here and the kettle, he would be the first to have a prop also enshrined
Yeah, okay.
next to him.
Well, you know what, Double J? I picked up initially that this is where he was going all along. He really wants us, in turn, to nominate him to be the Dallas Cowboys super fan in this round of the Hall of Fame. That's what I was getting from what he was talking about anyway. See, because I can't even understand what this is. I can't understand what he's going with that.
Absolutely not.
I couldn't agree more.
Of course you couldn't.
To
please. Who's surprised by that?
You think of, when you enter Jerry World into being kind of a Walt Disney World, as he said, and you think of Walt Disney World, and there's that image and statue there of Walt Disney holding Mickey's hand, and in this case, going into Jerry World, it would be our host and the kettle.
Absolutely not.
Right.
I want to see you all's busts, and I mean that in every nice sense of the word, busts, in Canton, so I can take a field trip of little elementary kids and hand them all rocks. So when we get inside, it'd be like, you see those two right there? Throw your rock. Hit those. Break those too. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it could be nothing but crumbs, shards, or whatever you want to call it, dust on the floor. Get out of here. Anyway, the Pro Football Hall of Fame nominates fans now, of course, and it's called the Ford Hall of Fame. The Ford Hall of Fans at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I think that's very, very interesting, and it's good that you and Double J, Brother Rich, or Brother Rich and Double J will now have something to shoot for next season when you put on your Browns elf hats and shoes. Speaking of the NFL, as we mentioned coming into the show, we talk about DeShaun Watson. And I said, as I named this, Watson wants out. We all know the story by now. If you've got a TV, even if you don't have a TV, if you got a shortwave radio, you now know, or you know by now, that DeShaun Watson wants out of Texas with the Houston Texans. Got to slow it down. But what I wanted to point out specifically was the bias, okay? I was having a discussion with a coworker, and he said, man, why you keep talking just so anti-this and anti-that? I said, listen, as long as those on that side of the table would like to convince me and the people that I know and others that there's no such thing as the bias going on in sports, then I, in turn, will continue to point out the fact that, yes, there are. When they stop, I'll stop. Got it? So until then, the show must continue, or the show must go on. And that's what we're here to discuss today. But before I get into that, I just wanted to point out right quick something Doc Rivers once said to his players in Boston. Just because I draw up a play for you don't mean it's your shot. Hello. That's something to marinate on. But anyway, back to my man DeShaun Watson. It's not so much Watson wanting to be out with the Houston Texans, who, I might add, have stood steadfast in saying that they will not entertain any trade request or accept any phone calls for Watson, although Watson, of course, has continued to say that he will not play for them next season. So we'll see if he pulls a Le'Veon Bell, Watson, that is. I think he will. But anyway, it's not so much Watson. It's what was said and what was asked of a former NFL player, MVP, and all that other good stuff you want to throw in there to elevate or prop a guy up, Brett Favre, and a former NFL head coach, Dick Vermeil. Brett Favre says, you get paid a ton of money to do a certain job. Just do it and let the chips fall where they may. I think we make too much money to voice an opinion, but I'm not saying he's wrong. Again, I think it's a different day and time, and it'll be interesting to see how the organization handles it. Double J, what do you make of Brett Favre's comments in regards to DeShaun Watson?
Well, I'm going to be a little explicit here, and I'm going to say that this is the same individual that off the field had some very questionable images go out where his decision-making was a little bit I don't know, questionable in itself. So to sit there and try to subject the other about the current state of affairs and to just be a company man and risk your entire career for that matter, because again, despite how great that contract and big it may be, we also understand that there's a lot of fine print there to be able to actually attain the majority of that. Many of those things are dictated by performance. And so if you feel that the team is not going to position you contractually to get you where you would like to be, or even within your own personal belief for, your own goals that you may have from a team level, again, not just individual, then he has absolutely every right to say, hey, I'm not okay with this. The same way that if any of us at our particular roles in with our employers, whoever they may be, if we're not happy with those things, we voice those. We're not just there to shut up and just do the job and then, and be thankful for that. No, we all have a particular growth and initiatives and goals that we have in mind. And if we can't achieve those with one particular place, then we set sail ourselves. So I think it's absolutely asinine, but I'm not surprised. At the same time, this is the same individual that also saw that, well, his goals weren't going to be met and he was going to be phased out by his employer, and he set sail. So, hypocritical, being a hypocrite is the least of his problems. And I'm tired of it happening to primarily quarterbacks of color, because again, when Eli Manning, right from day one, he hadn't even put pen to paper yet, was already calling shots. We saw Peyton Manning do the tour around the world like it was freaking Epcot. Again, people are doing this regularly in the NFL, and it's never a problem until DeShaun Watson wants to do it. And as much as I've attacked the guy about his performance, this is where, no, this is a moral thing, and I think it was BS. And any of the old folks club and the old ways of doing it, I'm sorry, today is a new day. This is how things are done now.
Yeah, I'm all for old school. I raise my hand, definitely. But it's a difference between being old school and old fool. Okay? Brother Rich, correct me if I'm wrong. But in layman's terms, let's say you own the company and DeShaun Watson works for you and he's your prize employee, right? I once heard Doc Rivers say in regards to Rajon Rondo, he's an extension of me on the floor. Don't you want your top player to be not necessarily, because see, the narrative that's being driven, that I think is being misconstrued and being driven, or purposely being driven, is that DeShaun Watson is trying to make decisions that affect the franchise, like he's trying to be the decision maker and who comes and who goes. No, what he's saying is, you all gave me a certain amount of money that if I don't do my part, social media and the likes and the talk shows, I'm gonna be on the circuit as being a bust, or is he not got it? Y'all gonna talk bad about me. So how about, I don't want to drive the franchise or make the franchise decisions. What I want to do is be able to think together with the guy that you bring in so that I can be at my best and own up to the money that y'all gave me, if I'm saying that right. You get where I'm going with that, Brother Rich?
Right.
Okay. So what are your thoughts on Brett Favre and my biggest question, why, of all the quarterbacks they could have went and asked, why go ask him? Your thoughts?
Well, because he played in Green Bay. Green Bay was that place at one time where they would send you to get punished. It was an outpost. He went and played there. It's the land of milk and honey, literally owned by some farmers, if you would. And so, but here's the thing. You when you ask what we think about Brett Favre, I think that Brett Favre is like a child's diapers after lunch. That's it.
Yeah.
That's what he's like. So, look, Brett Favre is symbolic of a league that refuses to reckon with its past, its present, and address its future. And the future is that the quarterback position is no longer reserved for a select few. So today you have more young, brash individuals who are assuming the position, which ultimately means control of the franchise. And when you get that, there's an assumption or a belief, at least, that absent Tom Brady, the GOAT, in New England, who didn't have much say, but absent that, you find that teams build around their franchise player, in particular the quarterback. You mentioned the Manning. We talked about Brett Favre. We could talk about
Andrew
some
Luck,
of these other quarterbacks that
John
have had
Elway.
Andrew Luck. We could talk about them. John Elway. We could talk about some of these situations. But in this scenario, one has to ask ourselves, why does he want out of there? Why does he not want to play for that team anymore? Have we considered perhaps the ownership group? Have we considered the management structure that spoke to that young man and told him, in essence, he was no person of count? He was, in fact, a cog in the wheel, and he could easily be replaced. This was insulting on a whole lot of levels, but then they went further in the conversation and then lied to him and told him that, okay, based on his disgruntlement, his dissatisfaction, they agreed to have a kind of relationship where they would at least consult, inform him on certain major decisions. And they refused to do that time and time again. So now he's making the decision saying, I want out of here, because what they're going to do to that young man is what Carolina did to Cam Newton. Let him get beat up to the point where he doesn't even know where he's coming or going anywhere. His career is cut short by injuries.
That's a good point.
We see this now is about to happen to this young man in Houston. So he's asking to get out and be put into a different situation. Last thing I'm going to say on this, we talked about old school. And on old school principles, you don't speak about another man's pocket. So it's absolutely wrong on so many levels for that man to speak about what that young man is doing with his life.
Yeah, I mentioned before, too, Brett Favre did the same thing when it came to Javon Walker. Javon Walker was, I believe he was holding, I don't know the details, they're kind of sketchy, but the gist of it, Javon Walker was, it was some kind of contract situation. He was holding out, he was out. And then they stuck a microphone under Brett Favre's chin then, and he just did not have anything good to say. And I'm saying to myself, I thought of all sports, football was a brethren. And he just basically lambasted him, man. And Javon caved into the pressure, because now the media like, oh, well, Brett Favre thinks, because at the time, of course, he was playing for the Packers and they thought so highly of him. Brett Favre thinks you should do this, and Brett Favre thinks you should do that. And the next thing I know, Javon Walker was back in camp and he blew his Achilles out, like the first game of the season or something. Or might have even been in preseason and was done. And you never heard from him. And he never got paid, so to speak. Man, look, when it comes to that sport, like I've said before and countless times over and will continue to say, every player deserves to get their money. That's why them guys who got theirs already should know better. You know what I mean? For all of the knock that he gets for whatever reasons, you don't hear Tom Brady talking like that about his teammates. At least if he does or has, I haven't heard it. You know what I mean? And then, for him being Brett Favre to say, but I'm not saying he's wrong. Well, everything else you said preceding that particular sentence, you were saying he's wrong. Would you make up my mind, please? And then you, Brother Richard, just mentioned the whole diss thing. I'll give you another diss why DeShaun wants out. Because the organization, the Texans that is, they are dysfunctional. How about that? And have failed him repeatedly. You don't take DeAndre Hopkins away from him and then tell him to go and then, man, stop it. I think we had that discussion too. If you were picking a fantasy football team, what DeShaun Watson has around him or surrounding him offensively, who would you put in as a flex? Pick a flex player from the Houston Texans right now. Pick a starting wide receiver from the Houston Texans right now. If you're in a fantasy football league, if you're in a fantasy football league and you win one for high stakes, big money, pick one, fill out a roster with all Texans players, starting with him at quarterback. Now fill out the rest of your fantasy roster with just Texans players. Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, but then after, of course, Brett Favre piped in, had his say. With all due respect to the elderly, Dick Vermeil He had his say. And here's what I find interesting about that. Let's see, what day was it? I think it was, bear with me, December 21st of 2020. Excuse me, I was going to say of this year. Dick Vermeil said about Carson Wentz, and here's why I'm bringing this up. Because Carson Wentz and DeShaun Watson, this situation somewhat mirror each other. Carson Wentz wants out in the same fashion, right? So to speak. Vermeil had this to say about Wentz. That position needs more support than anyone else on the football field. The Super Bowl winner believes, of course, Vermeil, Carson Wentz still has it. He blames a lack of supporting cast for the quarterback's struggle. So if that's true in Wentz's case, then I don't understand how I think they should change his diapers, okay? Vermeil says, of how the Texans should handle the situation going forward with Watson. Nowhere in his contract does it say that he's involved in making the decisions of who coaches or who leads the organization. He's a great NFL football player and always has been a great kid. But I think he should just shut his mouth and become a better football player and lead the football team and let the leaders of the organization lead him. And the person who wrote that piece in the article verbatim afterwards said, ouch. Again, he's contradicting himself. You're saying he's a great football player, a great kid, and always has been, but he needs to shut his mouth, though. And lead the football. Yeah, and let the leaders of the organization lead him. Okay, so
it's no different than shut up and dribble, bro.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Not only that, but again, okay, we talked about the NFL level now. You're talking about a guy leading, making decisions for the organization. That's the operative sentence in all of this to me. Eli Manning did it. Phillip Rivers did it. We're talking about decisions that affected the organization. So if you're going to say that about him, why would you fail to mention those other guys? And then on top of that, like I just said, what you said about Wentz in December, and now you're saying this about DeShaun Watson. And what is this? January, February? I'm pointing out the bias here, people. I'm pointing out the bias. Brother Rich, what do you make of Mr. former Super Bowl winner Dick Vermeil's old school, unfortunately, comments?
Well, Jay, I make that the Good Old Boys Network could not have gone on without people like Dick Vermeil. Remember now, they coached, and that's what's wrong with them. They coached in the league in a time where if we're finding out how racist these owners are, let's put it on the table for what it is. If we're finding out how racist these owners are, that they colluded to keep a man from having a job in that league because he kneeled down for justice and for rights for people who were being gunned down by the police. He just kneeled down. And we have to go through him being excoriated by all the owners. You're talking about Houston. Houston is one of the teams that said, you can't kneel down here. Houston is the owner that used horrible language. These are the kinds of people that own NFL teams. So it's not surprising that a scumbag, and I'm going to use that language, like Dick Vermeil, is the kind of coach that just wants a black player to shut up and dribble or shut up and throw the football. It's what it is, man. These are racist, no good people who have had it their way for far too long, and they don't like that these young black millionaires are finding a voice.
Yeah. Especially a guy, and to me, you have to lend credence to a guy who's a consummate professional. How often have you heard DeShaun Watson's name associated with drama? On or off the field? Oh, okay. And listen, it's not what you're saying is not true, Brother Rich, because the both men that we're talking about here who had something to say both mentioned what type of dude he is, so to speak. But then you turn around and in the first breath say he ain't that type of dude, but he is that type of guy. He a stand-up guy, but he ain't a stand-up guy.
Look, Jay, just because he's saying they're a good football player, that's all they want is for you to be a good football player. They want us to, like they wanted us to be good slaves. They used to say so and so is a good nigga. That's a good N-word.
Yeah.
Because if you behave according to the way they want you to behave, you're good with them. But when you start saying, nah, wait a minute, I don't like that. I don't like how you're doing me right now. I don't agree with this. I think I got some rights here, and I'm about to stand up and fight for my rights. Now you become a bad N-word. And right now, that what they're saying, he's a bad N-word. He needs to just shut up and dribble, shut up and throw the ball, shut up and do what we tell you to do.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it sounds like to me, you know. And then Shannon Sharp, of course, weighed in. And to me, when I repeat something that someone else said, I don't do so to under the guise or to disguise it as my own thought process, because I do have my own. I don't always agree with what Shannon Sharp says on a whole lot of other things. But if a guy, it's not so much who says it as opposed to what's being said and whether or not what's being said makes sense. Did I just say that right? I hope you all get me on that, okay? So it's the what. It's whatever it is coming out of the person's mouth makes sense. And he asked, Shannon did, is anyone besides me waiting on Brett and Dick Vermeil to comment on Carson Wentz asking for a trade?
Come on.
Yeah, I'm waiting too. Go ahead, Double J.
You bring up some good points, and I want to highlight what Martellus Bennett recently said, and kind of a exposing what really what we're touching on right now, which is that dark side of football, the part that is, again, that shadowy area in the Lion King. That unless you're in the locker room and a part of the quote unquote NFL family, you don't personally, from a fan standpoint, you don't see this side of it. So, for example, he mentions that, and I'm going to say in quotes here, I'm going to quote this portion of it. We were groomed from a young age to care a little less about humans. If you're the backup and the man in front of you goes down, you get kind of excited and feel bad at the same time. Again, in quote, most of these coaches aren't good men. Most of them are egotistical, small dick heroes. So they love the spotlight just as much as the players. Well, I'm quoting.
Yeah, I know, but try to kind of skip over the profane part too, if you could. But go ahead, I'm with you.
But yeah, so. Again, honestly, football made me such an angry person. Everything bothered me. Psychologically, it's really some dangerous stuff. I'm paraphrasing. To really play the game of football, you have to have some messed up wiring in your head.
Yeah. Is that in
all of this?
Oh, go ahead.
Yep. All of this, again, it takes years of brainwashing. That's why he stresses you have to watch who's coaching your kids in Pee Wee.
That's true.
And what they're teaching them beyond the game.
That's true.
As you guys are pointing out, this kind of conditioning, what folks like Brett Favre and Dick Vermeil, what they want you to do, that he's stepping outside by making this choice, make the request to trade, and to not be a Carson Wentz. No different than at what point in time it was Colin Kaepernick, and we all seen how that ended.
Yeah.
So he is in this slippery slope, and as many are expecting, as we watch the trade for Stafford and Jared Goff take place, and many are assuming that the haul or the return for DeShaun Watson should be 5x that. It'll be very interesting to see how this plays out. Do they even trade him? Do they set the bar so unrealistically high that it's, again, unattainable and he has no choice? Now, as you may have not have also heard, someone else has came out and said they should go the route that they went at once upon a time. I can't remember who it is offhand, but they said don't show up.
Jay Cutler.
And then we'll figure it out.
Yeah, it was Jay Cutler. I thought that. I found that. I was going to mention that as well. And do right quick, now that it just came to mind right quick, Brother Rich, I appreciate you for correcting that on the inside of things. I get the energy and whatnot and the disgust and the disdain for here we are again talking about this again. Why are we? You know what I mean? So I know it came out, but I appreciate you for correcting that. yeah, we do try to keep it clean, but unfortunately, the realness takes over at times. But that's D. Gully from the CO on Bus decided to join us. Gully, what's happening?
Hey, how we doing? It's been a great week, sort of, and I'm glad to get back with you guys. Talk about some sports.
Yeah.
Is it snowing in
Welcome
Buffalo?
Distraction.
Is it snowing
I
in
don't know
Buffalo?
what Buffalo's doing, but I know Columbus got what Cleveland got, and I know Columbus and I know Cleveland.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you want to keep going, Brother Rich? Or, I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Is
You
this,
know we're just getting started.
is it-
You know
yeah.
we're just getting started.
I'm just saying, is this snowing in Kansas City, Cleveland? My gosh, you pick it. You worse than Scott at the shop. You know what I'm saying? Scott got on the new. He rolled with every team that's winning every week. Yeah, man. Start from the bottom and then work your way to the top. Well, that was a song, wasn't it? If I'm not mistaken. But anywho, yeah, and I wanted to mention too, Seahawks Russell Wilson. He's now come out saying or dropping or subtle hints or throwing slight jabs at the Seahawks organization, and in particular mentioning how he don't like the fact that he's been sacked 365,000 times since yesterday. The protection is bad and so on and so forth. I don't have a problem with him. In this case, some have said riding DeShaun Watson's coattails, so to speak, or riding the coattails of this quarterback carousel this season because. We already seen Matt Stafford go to the Rams, and I'm saying to you right now that I'm not the only one. You go look at the fact. Look at the I just mentioned his name earlier, Swagoo. He said it too. I think Matt Stafford is a significant upgrade over Jared Goff. Excuse me, Goff. But I'm looking forward to the Los Angeles Rams because they saying. Even with what Brady and them just did in the Super Bowl here, they did a power rankings for next season already, even though this season just got done. I get it. Like they celebrate Christmas here, in July. They already putting trees up. It's premature. But anyway, Swagoo said, don't count the Rams out, and I'm not counting them out either. But, yeah, Russell Wilson, he's kind of voicing his, what we would call it here, his frustrations. But the only thing I don't like about what Russ did, and he kind of putting a black eye on the situation, he threw his offensive line under the bus, and you don't do that. I lost a lot of respect for Russ in doing that. Everything else was fine until I heard him throw his teammates under the bus, and you don't do that. Whether they playing good or bad or not, you pull them cats to the side, man, because what you did in that instance, now you put, especially in this day and age, now you put your whole offensive line or the folks who's supposed to be blocking for you, whether it's backs, tight ends, depending on the formations, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You didn't put them all out there on social media like that, and I just think that's you just don't do that. You just don't do that. On no level, you don't do that. I've never done that to a teammate, and I don't even use the word never. Two words I don't like using: never, and it's saying something is hard to do, difficult, challenging, yeah. But there's two words I just don't like using. There's just something about them. You just don't do that. I'm very disappointed in Russ. I lost a lot of respect for him, Gully. But we were just weighing in on what Brett Favre and what Dick Vermeil said. So if you'd like to maybe sum us up so we can go to the next topic here. What are your thoughts on what Brett Favre said and what Vermeil said in regards to DeShaun Watson, especially in the case of Vermeil having Richard, having not even a month and a half ago said about Carson Wentz, whose situation, as I just mentioned, kind of mirrors DeShaun Watson's, saying, oh, he's suffering, he's having his mistakes, and it's okay for him basically to say he won out because he don't have nothing around him. But, of course, in the case of DeShaun Watson, he's saying he's just shut up and throw the football. What are your thoughts?
What's already understood need not be explained. I would say, for the sake of just the general observation, it's curious that, DeShaun Watson and his situation evokes a response I haven't heard from Dick Vermeil in quite some time. So for him to be able to have comments that resonate with the sports world about somebody else's pocketbook or about somebody else's situation, it to me is very funny, to say the least. Brett Favre is clearly laughable, like literally LOL laughable to say what he said when in fact, I mean, almost to a T, he didn't like it. You know, he didn't like the fact that Aaron Rodgers got drafted while he was still in his prime throwing bad throws and ill-advised throws in clutch situations in Lambeau Field. But I digress. Fact of the matter is, I didn't think that it's appropriate. Well, it's not even about it being appropriate. Everybody's entitled to their opinion, but it's very interesting and revealing just how opinionated they are about what seems to be very simply a bad situation for one quarterback, when another quarterback who sort of put himself in that situation based on their performance or lack thereof, there's no comment about it. And I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I'm kind of with Brother Richard, and what I heard the panelists say on Get Up today. I keep mentioning Swagoo, Marcus Spears, but Dominique Foxworth, Dan Graziano, and Mike Greenberg, and Ryan Clark, all to a man in their own way, basically said that the standoff continues between DeShaun Watson and Texans management, and that he, like Brother Richard again pointed out, him wanting out goes. They think it's more to it than just who was being brought in or who was hired to run whatever they was run that he would be working alongside with or whatever the case may be. They think it's more than that, and I do too. I think, again, the standoff continues, and he gonna force their hand to trade him. Why would you saying no, you don't want to trade him because and to me you're acknowledging he's a highly valuable asset. He wants out. He don't want to play for you for a multitude of reasons. So at some point, you're going to have to let him go because you're not going to get the same player. And we know football is a mental game. So if my mind ain't in it, what you think you're going to get from me? 267-687-0026 is the number to call. That number again, area code 267-687-0026. The Shop Report is powered by none other than Rocket Digital Media. It's the one-stop shop for all your digital marketing needs. You can look them up on Facebook at RDM Detroit, or you can go to the website, rocketdigital.net, and tell them BSJ sent you. All right, let's talk about Super Bowl 55. Fellas, for once, I got a chance to actually watch the game from start to finish. Well, there was a breakup in between. I started out at the house, and then I had to end up going into the job, but they had TVs going.
No wonder the mail is late all across the country.
Yeah, that's not why the mail is late. The mail is late because you got the wrong address on the front of your house, okay? It's hard to find, that sidewalk, and you got them dogs out in front of the gated community. Can't nobody get to your mailbox anyway. I know you ain't living out there with 10 toes down in the sand. Where's your mailbox anywho? Where's it at anyhow? In the ocean? Yeah, gotcha. Okay, so here are our post-game comments, all right? Brady wins his record 7th. Will it be broken by none other than the guy the Bucks D broke on the way to victory? Gully?
No. This is going to stand for quite some time. Probably a stand. It won't be broken by a quarterback or a player unless it's a guy almost like Charles Haley, who set the record by being who had a previous record by being valuable in his position at his peak by teams like the Cowboys and the 49ers that he won his rings with. I don't think this is going to be broken by a quarterback. Not to say that a guy like Patrick Mahomes won't have a very successful Hall of Fame worthy career.
Yeah, I want to point something out too, but no, I'll come around the room first, and I'll go to the other one next. Double J. Ooh, excuse me. Brady wins his now record 7th. Will it be broken by Mahomes or anybody else?
Yeah, I'm going to just chime right in with this because, a lot of this stuff with quarterbacks and really the philosophy with a lot of these franchises has everything to do with how much they pay that position. We've talked about it at length and why it just simply hasn't worked out traditionally for the better part of 20-plus years with the number one overall picks, et cetera. But his cap hit double within the next 2 years. Now, that money has to come from somewhere. Mahomes.
Oh, okay.
And so why I believe talent-wise, again, the man ran for his life during that game and made some throws that looked like they were out of the matrix and arguably should have been caught. I mean, when you're able to throw at a 45-degree angle while running, likely somewhere in the neighborhood of 16 miles an hour and peg someone, square between the eyes, that's, unique in itself. So he alone has the talent to do so. I don't believe it'll ever reach a point like a DeShaun Watson where it's just, the cupboard in the entire home, it looks like it's being squatted in because there's just nothing there in the form of talent or capable individuals. But unfortunately, this is where the owners always win and why the league is based on parity, because the magic number really is about 25. And so that's why you look at the Seahawks with Russell Wilson. He's getting frustrated, and they're coming at him with backlash about his contract. So as you see, there's a lot of give and take with success in this particular league, and I'll never be mad at the player for cashing in.
Neither will I. Brother Rich, will Brady now, of course.
I'll join with the rest. No, I'll join with the rest and say that we don't see that happening. I agree with them. Perhaps for an additional few reasons, one of which primarily is the injury bug.
Yeah.
That the way he plays the game, he's more likely to be injured than Tom Brady was during his tenure and his run in doing this. And then when you take into consideration what WJ's talking to us about now, the modern-day salaries, the caps,
the
hits against the caps that are going to come, and
Yeah.
trying to keep those kind of players. You don't see that kind of thing happening. Brady was able to do that in a unique way in Boston, New England, because he himself was willing to play for reduced rate for many, many years and brought in, quote unquote, inexpensive or cheap, if you will, by comparative standards, for the kind of talent that they had. They brought in cheap talent to play with this once-in-a-lifetime talent, and then you saw what that produced. What team can do that again? Perhaps they can, but in the modern NBA and with the way things are and with the injury factor, you just can't see it happening again. Perhaps not like that.
You said the modern NBA, huh? That's what I mean by over there.
The modern
NFL,
NFL,
no, that's
NFL.
what happened when you live in a gated
thank you for
community.
correcting me.
No,
The
that's
NFL.
what happened when you live in a gated community. You can sip on Manischewitz
That's what it
while
is.
you in the process of doing the show. You know what I'm saying? Okay, my man. All right, but you ain't sharing none. That's what I mean. It's foul, just foul.
That's a good one.
The Patriots, by the way, with Tom Brady at the helm, were the last, of course, to repeat as Super Bowl champions. So I mean, it's just tough to do, man. That's why they call it any given Sunday. Are the refs really to blame for the Chiefs not playing well? I say no. But at the same time, I ask, for that line, who can't, what fan of what team can't make that claim? I told you all before, and I will keep saying or continue to say, the day I read about Arnold Big Bank Rothstein, and when he was asked about fixing the 1919 World Series, the Black Sox scandal, he said, we can fix anything but the weather. It was at that moment I started selling off all of my licensed memorabilia. I'm telling you. You can ask my brothers. I gave them all my Cleveland Browns gear. I all my Indian. I did all of that because now I fully understand. I just need to sit in the chair and just watch it. And when it's over, gather up a few friends. We talk about it. And when that's over, I go to sleep. You know what I'm saying? I got bunny slippers, nighty-night. Don't let the bed bugs bite. You know what I'm saying? I get up the next morning and I feed the kids. And then it's on to the following Sunday. I am not about to be all – when I was 10, it was okay for me to be mad when my team lost. You know what I mean? Cardiac kids. When Brian Sipe threw that doggone interception to Mike was it Mike Evans? Who was it? No. Mike Davis, excuse me. Yeah, when he threw that interception, Mike, I was mad for a week, man. I was fighting in school and the whole line. Man, at this stage, no. Mm-mm. Yeah, I watched the game. Yeah, it was some questionable calls, but aren't there always questionable calls? I mean, it's a part of the game now, right? No sporting event is completely left up to chance. But you cannot dismiss the fact that the Chiefs had opportunities, as was the case when Brady went up against Aaron Rodgers and threw 3 interceptions. This is what I mean by folks and their narratives that keep switching up. Would y'all please make up my mind? Brady threw them 3 interceptions. All the talk was about how he threw. He ain't got it. They gonna blow. But he threw them 3 interceptions. And what did Aaron Rodgers do? What Aaron Rodgers do with them? Nothing. With all due respect, look, he looked just like Peyton Manning used to look when Peyton Manning was a regular season phenom and kept getting ran off the field in the first or the divisional round in the playoffs when these teams would only score 3 points. Hey, the playoffs is a whole different animal. Yes, the Chiefs had some moments, but at the same time, and I don't care what nobody say, what happened with Andy Reid's son, that driving incident, in my opinion, played a factor in the focus not being up to par for the Chiefs. And, of course, prayers for the children involved in that horrific car crash. Now, who's the fault and who's to blame? I'll let that come out when it come out. But for this right here, yes, the focus was not there. Ask any player who's played in a playoff game or a Super Bowl. Ask them what the mindset. Ask any player who played in a preseason game what the mindset. Ask any player who came to training camp look, Pete Carroll said it the year the Seahawks won the Super Bowl. The first day of whatever it is when teams can get together, he said, I let every guy know every day from this day forward is championship. There's a mentality and a focus that you have to have from begin all the way through to the end when you're hoisting that bad boy. And you cannot have anything take away from that. And this is unfortunate. But, yes, the focus was not there. And then add in the fact, look, I know we talk about the skill positions, and that's fun and all that good stuff. But for me, I don't care how great your quarterback is, the game of football starts in the trenches. What you do at that line of scrimmage and who you got at that line of scrimmage on both sides is going to determine the outcomes for the games 9 times out of 8. That boy's offensive line was decimated, and their focus was not there.
Fact.
For me. Okay? More so than the yellow flags and so on and so forth. You could see it from, they were in the game, and of course, with Mahomes being Mahomes, you see he was still, he was ad-libbing and still was able to, come on, Travis Kelce, even though he had 11 catches or whatever it was for 120-something, 30-something yards, he was slipping. Like you mentioned, I don't know if that was Sammy Watkins or Tyreek Hill, the ball went off his face mask. And then I can't say enough about Tampa Bay's defense. My gosh. Them linebackers. Them is the kind of linebackers the Browns need. All I know is I saw one play that just told me that it was Tampa Bay's night. It wasn't even on the offensive side. It was on the defensive side. When it was Devin White, Mahomes got the snap real quick and then turned to his left and threw the quick pass to Hilaire or whoever that was on the left side. And Devin White recognized it before he got out of his stance and was on it. Hey, read and react. That's what I'm talking about. Know what you out there doing. And then go eat. And the Bucs did, man. So tip your hat to them, man, and let's wait for 2021. So I said all that to say, Brother Rich, you think the refs are really to blame?
No, I do not. Absolutely not. I agree with everything you said, along with I think that they thought too much of themselves in that game coming in because I think that they bought the hype, that we all thought they were going to win. Check the tape. Somebody did say there would be 31 points in the game, but I just thought the other team was going to score 31.
Yes.
And I didn't think it was going to be necessarily a blowout per se, but in that they would perform and keep each other in it and stay tight with Kansas City pulling away. But nevertheless, they showed up and they didn't show out. And Brady, which is why it's in the conversation of the NFL it's unreasonable to argue that somebody else is the GOAT when you have watched this young man perform in the way he's performed and now has won his 7th Super Bowl. You could say somebody else is as good as him, but in that position, there's nobody better than he is. He has been thus far.
I'm glad you said that.
And he met the challenge on that day. He just did. And the team that was with him and surrounded him, his defense, his line, they all met the challenge. I can't tell you what plays were run and whose schemes, but you could see it that one team was really ready and one team was surprised out the gate that they did not score. That machine didn't march down the field and just begin to get in that end zone like they normally did. And you could see that there was some shock and awe, if you will.
Hey, you know what else I'll say? There's another show that I watch. I can count on one hand the number of shows I do, sports related. But NFL Live is pretty good. Believe it or not, he was terrible at Connecticut and kind of terrible in NFL. Not kind of, was in the NFL. Dan Orlovsky. But he does a good job. He's the guy they assign when they do a show to break down the film, and show the viewer what the guy was seeing. Like the lady will lead, and I forget her name. She'll lead into it, and she said, "Well, what is it? You mentioned something about in the trenches, Dan. At the line of scrimmage that took place that made the difference in this game. What is it?" And he said, "Exactly. Let me show you." And then they brought up the picture. There's a play when right after, I don't know what time, because they showed the clock in the quarter, but I wasn't really paying attention to that. I wanted to see the design. They showed a play where he said, you didn't see Tampa Bay doing this against the Chiefs or anybody else really early on in the season. He said, but they made that adjustment, and it was a veteran-to-veteran communication thing. Godwin had caught a little flare pass, some kind of pass, and kind of ran for like 8 yards and got tackled, whatever. And he said, I like this right out the gate. Get it to him, get it safe. That's a safe play. But then there was a play where Gronkowski was the Bucs. If you're looking at the screen, the Bucs are on your left and the Chiefs are on your right. Okay, right? Well, Tom Brady waved his Gronk was to Tom's right. Waved his hand across his own face. Pointed at Gronk, and then pointed up the field, like towards the middle of the field, then waved his hand across his face again. Gronk looked back at Tom and nodded his head. And then Dan was like, right there, watch how this play develops. And when they let the play run, you could see based on the communication, nonverbal, why that play was successful. And it only gained like 5. No, matter of fact, it was 3rd and 4 or something, and the play went for 6 yards for a first down. He was like, because of that communication, because of that design, and them recognizing, that kept a drive alive. Matter of fact, it was right before the half, because he said, without that play, you don't get he said that play, and then you had the 2 PIs, which led to the touchdown right before the half to put them up 21-6. I just say all that to say, I love play design and breakdown. My man, may he rest, no longer has it. But when Kobe used to do the detail, that's the kind of stuff I'm into, man. Show me what went into it from beginning to end. That's why I'm telling you right now, I don't care how athletic you are. Show me how he do it, and then show me how it's really, the nuances of it. Yeah, because my mind and your mind, that's what levels the playing field. You did what I'm saying? That's what definitely levels the playing field. Double J, do you think the refs were to blame in Super Bowl 55?
Absolutely not. A lot of people have proposed that momentum is everything in the game of football. And do I believe circumstantially the timing of some of those flags could have been the quote-unquote momentum killer? Certainly. However, if you look at that scoreboard, momentum or not, unfortunately, their quarterback was hurt. The man's going to have surgery. I believe he had surgery today.
Yes, turf toe.
He's playing through something. That alone, you pair that with missing 2 starting tackles. Again, he ran for a record 495 yards, many of which were unaccounted for because they weren't beyond the line of scrimmage. They were all behind it.
Yeah.
That's not going to win you a Super Bowl. Not an ill-placed or timed flag. you couldn't protect the guy. The guy himself was already hurt. And then they had a great plan. They got you behind and out of your comfort zone and forced you to have to really force the ball downfield. And on top of that, that's all they were sitting on and waiting for. If he would have been healthy, I do believe it would have been a different result. I actually believe we will see a likely rematch of these very same two teams in a year's time. That's
putting it out there.
In my way too early prediction, I believe that's when the revenge game will take place and the outcome will be different. But there's a lot of ifs, ands, or buts there. And as Brother Rich pointed out, health, first and foremost, is one of them that can alter everything.
Yeah. That's why you got to always consider the nature of the sport. Gully, did the refs play a major role in the outcome of the game?
No, not at all. Because what they were looking for were reasons to say that Tom Brady is anything, and the Bucs are anything other than the great team that they were. If we're looking for refs costing games, I'm still trying to figure out when are they going to give, when they're going to find the chief responsible, especially for that divisional playoff game versus the Browns.
Exactly.
On that helmet-to-helmet hit.
Exactly.
That we still have to act like it didn't happen, even though we've seen it in our faces.
I'm still trying to figure out why that flag
Rick,
came out after the fact when the Miami Hurricanes lost to Ohio State in the national championship. After everybody had already went home. Oh, my bad.
Brother,
I wasn't supposed to say that. Sorry.
Yeah.
Not sorry.
Y'all had to find a way to mention the Miami Hurricanes,
Absolutely.
the Dallas Cowboys, and the Buffalo Bills all in one shot. Huh?
Wait
Wait a minute. You mentioned the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, exactly. You did.
I said nothing about them.
You see what I'm saying?
You mentioned the Buffalo Bills. But I was going to say.
He's going to talk about some y'all like we from Kentucky, like he don't live in a gated community. Talking about some y'all. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
Meaning all over there. You know what I mean? Yeah. Get my bags. I'm saying, wow. This is what we got to deal with this week.
I just want to say this real quickly. To borrow from one of your phrases.
Whose phrases?
Check the tape. Last season, when the Patriots were going into the playoffs.
Come to think of it,
and
he
ended the season at 12-4.
Come to think of it, he got 1,000,001 phrases.
Yeah.
That's what we're going to do, start writing his phrases down and start using them when they're apropos,
Right.
when he say something outlandish. But go ahead.
Yeah, but I was saying last season when the Patriots were going into the playoffs and they ended the season at 12-4, I said the Patriots are the most maligned 12-4 team that I had ever experienced in the football. And now we get to see just how off that was, because this is a Patriots team. That was a Patriots team led by Tom Brady, but Tom Brady, who's now a year older, who in one season helped to turn an entire franchise around.
But wait a minute. Let's be honest.
As good as he was last year.
But let's be honest. The NFL is such now that you can't even breathe on Tom Brady wrong, and you're going to get a 28-yard penalty. So let's be honest now. The guy going to play till he's 95 because of that. I mean, but he's still, and I'm glad Brother Richard pointed out, at that position, it would be foolish to argue that he's not the best. But when it comes to overall, I'm still going with Jim Brown. But go ahead.
Well, yeah, and to wrap up real quickly, though, let's also give credit where credit is due. The one thing about Tom Brady going from New England after 20 years to Tampa Bay, when people thought about like why he would choose a team like Tampa Bay going into that season, you think about what he had. He went to a team that had a very well put together and well put together coaching staff, right? Bruce Arians is this greater coach. You know, if you want to have someone with an identity, with a presence, with a know-how, with the skill, with the poise, all the intangibles you can think of that could rival a Bill Belichick run coaching staff, Bruce Arians would be one. He wasn't going to go anywhere where people were going to try to figure it out. He wasn't interested in that. And as you can see, based on the way that gameplay was, based on the game plan and what was put forth and how everything was executed from start to finish, from game one all the way into the Super Bowl, you see he went where he knew stability was and he would be able to thrive. So applaud to Tom Brady, to the Bucs. The referees had nothing to do with keeping the Chiefs out of this game. They did that to themselves, or maybe, circumstances might have dictated that, but it wasn't the refs.
Yeah, we all see what happened to the Browns when Ryan Teller, if that's his first name, when Teller and a few of their offensive linemen went out. You know what I mean? It starts in the trenches, man. The trenches are far more important than they are given credit for. Double J says we see a rematch next year. We shall see. Fellas, as always, good stuff. And on that note, it's been fun, but we got to run. We appreciate y'all for listening. Don't forget to check us out right here on Spreaker.com. Or you can check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Apple Music, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, and give us a follow. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, or you can hop on over to the shop's Facebook fan page. And if that don't work, Google it. And before we get out of here, we'd like to once again remind you that the Shop Report is now being powered by none other than the fine folks over at Rocket Digital Media. It's the one-stop shop for all your digital marketing needs. You can look them up on Facebook at RDM Detroit, or you can go to the website, rocketdigital.net, and make sure you tell them the BSJ sent you. For my dudes, Bro Rich, Double J, D Gully, and all those who follow and support us, we say thank you. Barbershop J, and you've been listening to the Shop Report. And remember, the next time y'all want to know what's really going on, man, come to the shop. Walk-ins are always welcome. Holla.